Quick little disclaimer as this video starts. You're going to notice that a lot of the footage in this video, the AK is not running very smoothly. I think that these are twofold. I think one is ammunition and two is possibly magazines. Some of the older clips that you're going to see, the AK is running just fine, but over the several years I've had this gun, it has ran perfectly fine. It's just that we didn't start actually recording stuff until this past year. And if you're not up to date on current events from this past year, Russian ammunition, specifically the 5.45 round, is becoming harder and harder to find. While I would have loved to get a bunch more footage of this gun running smoothly and running really well, I have very limited footage of that. And I just wanted to give the quick disclaimer. While it might look like this gun is absolutely just struggling to cycle, it is. But with the lack of ammunition availability and the pricing going through the roof for what the round is, we weren't really able to get a lot of new footage of this gun. Hello everyone and welcome back to Purposeful Armament, and today we're going to be looking at, as the title suggests, in my opinion, Century Arms' greatest AK-74 clone. I've been running this gun for quite some time. I have some opinions on it. I have some pros, some cons, and I wanted to just make a quick video to highlight those pros and cons, talk about the AK-74 a little bit, and kind of show it off. So let's get into it. Now for starters, this video is going to be more of an overview video. I have shot this gun for a long time. I've owned it for 4 or so years, so I've had it for quite a long time as well, but I've probably only shot maybe 1,500 to 2,000 rounds through it. We'll talk about that later, but I kind of want this to be an overview type video, you know, just kind of talk about the features of the rifle, how I kind of have it set up, how I've been running it, and kind of some of the issues and pitfalls I've ran into while using this rifle. I'm also not trying to recommend that you buy one of these rifles. We'll talk all about it. Don't you worry. Let's get the rifle out though. Let's take a quick little look at how I have it set up and some of the kind of features of the rifle, and we'll get into it. So here it is, the Century Arms NDS-2. The NDS stands for Nodak Spud. So if you're not familiar with Nodak Spud, they've been in the manufacturer game for quite a while. And they have made, obviously, AK receivers and AKs in general. And they've also made a lot of, AR-15s. They're pretty popular with retro builders as well. And fun fact, Palmetto State Armory actually purchased them and rebranded them to H&R, and they're now creating retro rifles for PSA's retro line. So that's pretty cool. So I'll go ahead and take the magazine out. Nothing in the gun. All right, so safety queens. There is a unloaded, completely safe AK here. So we'll talk about this a bit. So like I was saying, I got this about probably 4 years ago, and it's been fairly reliable. We'll talk about the reliability after I kind of go over a quick overview of what the rifle has on it. So this gun is chambered in 5.45 by 39, which is sort of, I guess you could say, Russia's answer to the 5.56 by 45, which is what NATO was using. So much smaller bullet. I wish I brought one to show you guys. I'll put a picture up on the screen, but much smaller bullet than its big brother, the 7.62. It's very, very small, obviously, and it's kind of a long bullet as well, too, so that's pretty cool. But, yes, chambered in 5.45. We're going to start out with the tip up here. As you can see, there is a pretty rad little muzzle device on the end of this, very standard AK-74 style muzzle brake. AK-100 series rifles and 7.62 also have this brake. It does a pretty good job. The gun doesn't recoil a whole lot as is because of the small caliber and long stroke gas piston and etc, but the muzzle brake really does actually help to eliminate quite a bit of the flash, and it also helps to kind of direct the gases a little bit as well. So you can see there's sort of a big gap right here. It's not fully all the way around, obviously. And then you have a series of smaller holes, venting holes kind of up at the top. So this is threaded on here. I'm not going to take it off, but you can press this detent with a screwdriver or something, you know, press it down, and you can unscrew this and screw on any other muzzle device that you want, or any other suppressor or anything like that. Moving right along, you'll probably notice, I'll talk about this real quick, very standard AK-74 styling, right? In terms of the gas block, front sight post. But there is a parkerized finish on this, so it is kind of a light gray, or a dark gray. Not a light gray, it's kind of a dark gray. One thing I did notice about this rifle, which I thought was pretty cool, and it's kind of uncharacteristic of AKs, especially Century AKs, the front sight post, this is actually zeroed. So hopefully you can see that. This is actually zeroed, and it's, for the most part, kind of in between the center of the two blades. A lot of AKs, you have to crank it to one side or the other side. It'll zero, but it looks kind of goofy. So good on Century. It's, for the most part, centered. It's off to the left a little bit, but it's not really terrible. For the rest, we have standard handguards. Handguard and gas tube cover. So these are actually the plum colorway. I put these on here. It came with some like really gross looking, black Tapco furniture. I didn't really like that. I wanted kind of a more retro look. So I bought these surplus plum. I think they're Bulgarian. But they've been great. They dissipate heat well. Not really had any problems. Yes, I can't. There's no M-lock or pick rail on it, so I can't put, you know, lights or anything on it that easily, but it is what it is. We got our front sight block there. Pretty decent. The rest of the gun is pretty basic. AK stylings. I will show you guys this one thing, this guy right here. This is something I got from Circle 10. I'll go ahead and put a link to that in the description if you're interested. They sell little AK parts like this. And this is actually pretty neat. It really gives me a lot better purchase on the charging handle. I found it to be much easier to grab, especially if you have gloved hands, if it's cold, if your hands are sweaty. It has, you know, good knurling on it, so you can get a nice purchase on it and a nice grip on it to make it easy, especially when you're doing quick reloads. Moving on, I also put this Midwest Industries rail on it. Connects to the side optic rail of the AK, connects on there, clamps down, and on top of it I have a Primary Arms micro red dot. And yes, it's a cheap red dot, but this isn't really a fighting rifle. This is kind of a for fun rifle. It has been totally fine. It's stayed pretty much zero. It's not a guaranteed zero from taking this off the side rail and putting it back on, but it has stayed relatively well zeroed as well. I also added the plum pistol grip. This is from Arsenal, and a plum stock. Other than that, it's a completely basic AK. The trigger on this bad boy is really nice. Safety is very stiff. We'll go ahead and try this. Very nice, very smooth trigger, nice clean break, and a fairly light break as well. I don't know quite how heavy it is. It's probably around 4 or 5 pound break. So it's a very nice trigger actually in this gun. It's been doing fairly well for me. But as far as that goes, it is fairly accurate. I can take it out to 300 yards, hit man-sized targets. That's not really anything to really write home about, because most decent rifles can do that. And like I said, around 1,500, probably between 1,500 and 2,000 rounds have gone through this bad boy, and it's not really ever been cleaned. It might be lubricated once every handful of months. So it runs dirty, it runs uncleaned, and it runs. One issue that I did have with this gun shortly after I bought it, I did buy it used. Shortly after I bought it, I noticed that this the front trunnion right here, this bad boy, frontmost rivet of the front trunnion, was having some problems. It was walking out, and since the gun is held together with rivets, that was a pretty big deal. So I had it sent off to a gunsmith to get it worked on. A gunsmith that Century Arms actually recommended me to. So, you know, but after about 8 months, I finally got my rifle back. So if you really think about it, over those 4 years, I probably had it for way less than 4 years, you know, actually shooting it, actually using it. You know, no big deal. He kind of messed up one of the rivets there, kind of hammered it on the side a little bit, or pressed it on the side a little bit, so it doesn't look great, but it is what it is. A lot of times Century Arms AKs have issues with like magazine fitment, and magazines have fit in this gun really, really well. I personally use the PMags. These are 545 PMags, and I mean, they fit nice and snug. There's a tiny little bit of wobble, but that's kind of to be expected from an AK. Magazine release is nice and firm. All around, it's a pretty decent little AK. I think it looks pretty sick with the PMag in it as well. It's kind of a nice hint of modern. So that is my overview. Let's talk about some of the downsides a little. Number one, first and foremost, reliability is not there for this. That is, I wouldn't say it's to be expected, but it is kind of to be expected with the ammunition that is used in these guns. So given that I can get good ammunition for this, it will run all day, no problem. It's whenever I start to get the bad ammunition. Now, I would assume each gun is different, but this gun does not like Red Army standard in the little white boxes. So there's white boxes, long white boxes. This thing will not feed that ammunition. It pretty much turns it into a bolt action. It doesn't like to eject that ammunition. It's just all around. It doesn't like to feed it. It just absolutely does not work at all. The Red Army standard that comes in the small red boxes, that seems to work fine. I've not really had too many issues with that. Silver Bear works fine. Barnell works fine. Most of the Russian stuff works fine. Tula ammo also works fine. But some of that like cheaper, weird stuff, surplus stuff doesn't work. So the Century Arms is really the only stuff I've really had big problems with. And I had issues with keyholing whenever I first started using this gun. And the reason why is not because the barrels are out of spec. It's because of the ammunition. I'm fairly certain. I've asked some guys on Instagram who exclusively work on AKs, and they have said pretty explicitly that oftentimes 545 is actually a very hard round to stabilize. And so you have to have very well-made ammunition. So with that being said, the ammunition that will not keyhole out of this include Barnell, Silver Bear, and Tula. Those are the three ammunition types that I've found that work the best out of this gun that will not keyhole at 100 yards. Other ammunition will do okay. The Red Army's standard that's in the little red boxes that I was talking about earlier, that seems to be kind of hit or miss. Some boxes will keyhole, some won't. But those are the ammunition types that I've found to be the best that actually work out of this gun. Those are pretty much my only downsides. The trunnion issue and then the ammunition issue have been the two biggest downsides. Magazines are fine. Everything else is fine, just as long as you can find ammunition to feed this thing. It'll go all day. So I really like the gun a lot. Another thing I forgot to mention is the recoil impulse on this thing is pretty much non-existent. It is a long stroke gas piston, right? So gas is vented up here and pushes a piston back, which is connected to the bolt carrier group. And with that being said, this thing like absolutely purrs. I mean, it is less choppy than my AR-15. It's very close to my Triarch, which is a very expensive tuned rifle in terms of gas. And this thing absolutely, it kicks just about as much as that. And it is a pretty heavy gun, right? It's pretty substantial. There's a lot of, there's not a ton of plastic on it, and it's, you know, full 16-inch gun. So it's got some weight to it. So yeah, that was my overview of the Nodak Spud 2 AK-74 clone. If you can find these for a decent price, and you have some money to throw around and you really want it and you don't, you already have your ARs and all that stuff, I would recommend getting one, because even though I said at the beginning of this video that I don't recommend getting one, I recommend getting one if you can find one. If you can find one for a good price, like $800, somewhere around there. They make great guns. They're super smooth to shoot. They're super fun to shoot as well. So hope you guys enjoyed this overview. We're going to have some more videos coming down the pipeline. I'll leave a link in the description to this charging handle adapter if you run an AK and you want that and you haven't been able to find one yet. They're pretty nice. So thank you guys so much for watching this overview of the AK-74 clone NDS-2 from Century Arms. I will see you guys in the next video, and remember, stay armed.
I'm sorry to hear that, my dude.
Let me try that again.